What's going on, y'all? It's Greg. Greg said it. Inspiration, motivation, Easter, Resurrection Sunday, whatever we want to call it, edition here. Y'all, we had a nice live. Appreciate y'all coming out. We kind of moved it back this week and moving forward to start at 1:30. And we had a good conversation about the spring game, and we talked about all that good stuff, about just the changes and the differences we're seeing, good and bad. Talked about the whole, briefly, the Jersey situation with retiring of Shedeur and Travis. And, they talked it over, different, whatever perspective you have, maybe it's valid. It depends. But he kind of brought up a talking point that we will discuss here, talking about time, y'all. One thing that Coach Prime said about that situation makes a lot of sense. He say, everything's moving faster. Everybody wants everything microwave. You have a fit, your internet going slow, your food get delivered slow. Everybody wants stuff right now. That's the world we live in. I think technology makes it that way. And it makes it where it's doable. And that can be good and bad, because it makes an impatient group. It makes people not have to be rooted in anything. It makes people have false expectations or belief that they can get something without putting in the work. And that's just absolutely not true. That's not something that I don't see changing anytime soon. I think even with technology, you got to master a thing. It's like a principle. It's like a seed in the ground. No seed you put on the ground grows immediately. That's just nature, right? Even we look at Travis and Shedeur. They've been in Colorado for a couple of years, and they seem like a fast thing, but they put in that work. They put in that work at Jackson State. He broke a lot of records at Jackson State, too, if they're willing to acknowledge. I don't know if they retired Jersey or anything, but they did a lot very fast. And it's almost had to do more so with necessity. Sometimes you're moving fast, not because you're just great, but it's necessary. It was necessary that Shedeur do what he did in his attempt to win. It was necessary that Travis play all those downs because that's what his team needed. It wasn't always a want. And sometimes necessity, need, situations will make you have to do things which could benefit you. Now, it can hurt you too. But on a positive side, it pushed these guys to do something great. And they got the numbers to back it up. And what I do notice when you look at time is moving fast for a lot of different reasons. I got this technology theory that is more technology. I don't know what it is. I believe time is a created thing. I think all this is created, right? And because the sun and everything, depending on how you want to look at it, it's created. I think all created things are manipulatable to some degree, probably more so than we would think. And I think some people have certain understanding and knowledge to do it. And I think technology is one of those things. It's like the more we pump out phones and this and that, the more it seems like everything go fast. Not just mentally, And sometimes it is like in your head. Like you can go on a trip and be like, man, that went fast or that went slower than normal. And so it is some leeway. I remember when I was growing up, they used to say, hey, time is moving fast because you're getting older. And I think that's a technicality, because I think that as we get older, a lot of stuff is changing, including technology. But it's no longer that saying like, boy, you slow as Christmas. Back in the day when Christmas is no longer slow. Christmas come like this. We already halfway to Christmas almost again. Your Christmas break was slow. You was ready to go back to school. Your summer break was slow. Now I feel like you don't even have one as a kid. And time is definitely moving. He's not lying about that. And I think it pushes us to be more cognizant of our time and how we use our time, because it moves so fast. It's moving so fast that leaves you standing still 5 years later. You ain't did absolutely nothing. And you can feel it after a while, the older you get. Like, what have I accomplished with my time? It makes you more aware. And to get more out of your time, you have to be a lot more structured, like people having schedules, consistency, all that good stuff. And that's what them boys did. I mean, you look at how Shedeur trains. He got his trainers going. He go out of town. They going with him. It's like people take dietitians, the chefs. He ain't quite got there yet, even though he has one at his daddy house, right? But his QB coach goes with him when he's traveling. Now his weight trainer go. And you see the results from both. And he's investing in it. And he puts in the work. to be able to perform. He don't waste no time. Because all them trips and obligations he have, if he didn't use those breaks to get his training in, he wouldn't be who he is. He uses his time wisely. We all got to use our time wisely if we want to accomplish anything. It seems like if you go to work and you try to do anything extra, it's like, boom, it's hard to do. You got kids, you got family, whatever, and you say you want to develop a new skill or whatever, or expand what you have, but you can always seem to say, I didn't have enough time. I ran out of time. But it's this saying that everybody has the same amount of time, good and great. And you got to look at the fact that what makes a person so much more talented, you got talent. But when you talk about knowledge, like, how do they know more? Does their brain work a little better? Maybe. But you also got to look at the fact that, what do they do with their time? Because when you really look at gifted people, when you really get insight into what they do, look at the Coach Prime. I always mention E.T., Eric Thomas. You look at different greats. They get up early. They got this 4 o'clock club. You know, they got all these books. And they always talk about doing more before people wake up than they would do the whole day. And partially because you got that time set aside, and also because there's no distractions. Like, sometimes when distractions come, you can do something that takes a lot longer because you're breaking it up into pieces and you really can't track. But if you give a dedicated 2 to 3 hours, that will seem to go a lot better than if you did 2 or 3 hours spread out over 8. Like, some people work a job and they like, hey, I worked all day, but you really only worked 2 or 3 hours. The rest of the time you were chit-chatting, you were just taking your time. But you really look at it, half of the day you really ain't really do much, or you just spread it out. But when you're focused and strategic about a thing, you just can get a lot more done, even in less time. I think about the movie Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith was in, and it's like he had to go pick up his child, he had no transportation, he had all kinds of things, but he was so intense during the time that he did have that he blew past everybody who just was kind of like fooling themselves that he was accomplishing something and doing something that really wasn't. But he had to use his time. I found that out about myself. When I was in school, I didn't know no better. I played football and baseball from the time I was like 5 all the way through college. And I didn't realize, I didn't play basketball. I took that off, but time moved, that's the only break you got. I played baseball all summer, right into football, into the fall. All I had was the winter. And even in high school, I kind of messed with that. Because, things tend to extend. You start doing travel ball. High school, I later added wrestling a little bit towards the end. But that was my break. Now, college is a whole other situation because you don't get no break. But one thing I found out, because I played 2 sports all the way through. But when I left my first college and went to my second, and I was just going to do baseball, I was just going to do one. I had that gap during the fall. I realized the first fall in my life since I was 5 years old that I didn't have nothing to do. And I didn't realize the impact of it because of the fact that I always did it. And it was a gap in my life to the fact that I had my worst academic semester that I ever had because I didn't know how to manage the time. I was like putting stuff off. Like, I had big gaps in my classes because I transferred. I didn't have the schedule I necessarily wanted. So I had to take what was left because I, came later. And so I had a big gap in the middle of my day. I didn't stay on campus. I stayed off campus. So I found myself just kind of like trying to fill in time, but it wasn't structured. And my studying habits wasn't locked in. Unlike my prior college, everything was locked in. We had weight training in the morning. My classes was right after because it's what I could take. And I had my set time pretty much every day where I do my work between classes and practice, and then a little bit after practice, but most of it got done. And I did that. I wasn't like out at the union and stuff like that. And that was my schedule. And I was good at having a schedule because I always had, and I was good at using my extra time. And I did my work like that. And I even remember my last semester, I had to kind of add some classes or whatever. And I think I took almost 20 credit hours, which was crazy. And I was still on the football team. I was coming back from an injury. And then I also was a ambassador for the college doing the tours and stuff. I was the most active I ever had and really had a 4.0. like little discrepancy on what teacher gave me a high B, was supposed to be an A, I technically would have had a 4.0. So you add that, and you can compare that to the next semester, which ended up being when I transferred. I didn't play ball. It went from my best semester to one of my worst because I just did not manage that time. And I didn't realize that until I experienced it. This is how it feels. And this is how I was wired. I didn't know how to do anything different. And to this day, I'm really wired like that. I do my best when my schedule is full, when I got a lot of discrepancy. I got a lot of time where I don't really know what I'm doing. I could do it, I could not, I'm confused. That's when I don't necessarily do the best with the time I have. And I'm conscious of that because I had the ability to compare it late in my life. But I wonder how many people don't realize, how do they function the best? Like, when they're at their best. But I know that people who are successful, their schedule is structured, it's consistent, and it's not a lot of gaps, not a lot of wasted time. I noticed that. And I noticed I did my best in that. And I look at the best. And it's about who maximizes their time and use it for getting better at what they do. They're usually going to be better. Not because of the talent intrinsic or whatever, the genetics necessarily, but the fact that, especially when it comes to mental stuff, like learning stuff in your head, not only physical, it tends to work that those people have a system. Business people, academia, they tend to have a system that other people just don't have, and it looks as if they're just so much better. But that's why I know this. And you look at people like Coach Prime, you really pay attention to what he says and the people around him and how they live their lives. Like, it's not a lot of extracurricular in their life. Look at the Travis Hunter, Shedeur, they don't get in a lot of trouble. And they look like it pays off. You can't knock it. They know exactly what they're doing. They're learning from people who've been there, done that. Learning from the best. And that's why I get when Coach Prime says, just pay attention to these coaches around here. If y'all need to know how to get to where you say you want to go, just ask one of them. They'll show you, bringing people in to talk to them. Denzel, Ray Lewis, all these different people, Ed Reed. These people have succeeded at the levels that they are, in the fields that they're in. They're giving you hints and nuggets on what it takes to be great. If we all do that, it will make a difference. I've heard it too many times in and out of the sports. We got to get better at maximizing our time. But I'm just Greg. Greg said it. If you like what you hear, make sure you like, share, subscribe, comment, and I'll be talking to y'all soon.